Welcome
Welcome
to the Unhinged Bookcast, a podcast hosted by Jess and LJ, who love all things fantasy books. I'm LJ.
and I'm Jess, and we are happy to have you back.
Whether we're deep diving into thoughts and theories or just riding the vibes, we love discussing our current reads with each other and now with all of you.
We are currently reading Book 2 in the Kindred Curse series by Penn Cole, and tonight we're discussing chapters 16 through 30 of Glow of the Everflame. This is episode 4 in our Kindred Curse series.
We will be finishing out this series and then jumping into another series that we will tell you all about soon when we finalize a schedule.
We have not completed this series ourselves yet, so if you are reading along with us, this will be spoiler-free for you, as long as you have read through the devastating chapter that is chapter 30.
Oh, however, if you have already finished this series, please be considerate of us and our fellow readers and refrain from leaving spoilers in the comments.
And as always, these are adult fantasy books, so this is your content warning for the naughty words we sometimes use, as well as possible discussion of spicy and violent scenes from this book that may not be suitable for those little ears around you.
We do enjoy these types of conversations, but we will do our best to remind you to cover those sensitive ears beforehand. This episode does have a character death that we will be discussing. Please keep that in mind, as well as it could be a major spoiler for you if you did not finish reading this section.
Also, quick reminder that you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram for the days in between episodes. And please go over and like our YouTube videos if you're enjoying them, and subscribe to the channel to get notifications of new episodes on Tuesdays, as well as our random bonus episodes.
Now let's get this discussion started because we have so much to talk about tonight.
We have a lot tonight.
As always, we like to break our discussion down into different categories.
Yep, so we have characters, world building, history and lore, clues and foreshadowing, honorable mentions, and then lastly will be our thoughts and theories.
Also, we will be adding to our counters for cries, growling, and jaw ticking at the end of this episode. And somebody, we'll let you know when it happens, but somebody added to the cry counter tonight. But first up, characters. Let's get into it.
All right, so starting us off as normal is our FMC, female main character, Diem. Honestly, though, I don't even know where to start with her in this chapter chunk. So I guess first, we know she's got a lot to learn about fashion and styles of the Descended.
Yes.
Had a couple of wardrobe malfunctions in this section. She is also, it seems like she's kind of starting to learn who her true friends are and who she can actually trust versus who she can't at this point. She's also very conflicted in so many ways about so many things and doesn't exactly know where she kind of fits in her world right now. Is she descended? Is she mortal? Is she royal? Is she not? I mean, she's not sure what's up.
Yep.
She's also learning to use her magic, but she's far from being able to summon it at will or control it. I don't know. There's so much to say about her character and how it developed in these 15 chapters. And I know we're going to get into it more as we go along, so I'm just going to leave it at this for right now, and we'll talk a lot more about her as we go. I will mention, though, that she does get a really cool new nickname from Taryn. He calls her Queenie, and I love that.
I do too.
Okay, who's next?
Also, we have to have Mr. Henry. We only get a quick little bit of him in this section, and he is definitely turning into the villain, and he's turning into it really, really quick. He immediately is taking advantage of Diem's position and using it for his own causes. Dude is just bad news bears, man. And I'm pretty sure after she sent him to the dungeon for a timeout, is only going to grow that villain stance.
And then we have Henry's counterpart, my favorite, Luther.
He's growing on me.
Good. Good. I'm so happy to hear that.
We'll get into
I was wondering. I'm so glad.
He's growing on me.
All right. So Luther, we learn even more about him in this part of the book. We learn that something happens to him when he's young, something very traumatic, and
Yep.
I'm assuming violent.
Yeah.
And he says he was spared from whatever this was by Mother Lumnos.
Hmm.
Then because of this, he has vowed to serve Lumnos, the realm of Lumnos, and all of its people. Even the mortals, it seems. When he says all, it seems like he means even the mortals. The very best thing that we learn about him, I think this is the best thing that we learned in this chapter chunk, is that he's actually been helping smuggle out all of the half mortal, half descended kids all these years, not executing them. I will admit there was a very brief moment where I doubted him, and then I loved learning that part.
Yeah.
The second best thing I think that we see about Luther is obviously, of course, how his relationship with Diem seems to be evolving.
Yep.
Definitely coming along. We will definitely talk more about that later, but I'm just gonna put it out there. Once again, I do believe they are fated mates, even more so
Mhm.
now than before. But we'll talk more about that later.
Yes, we will. So I grouped up Teller and Lily. We see them mostly together, even, and very little. And they have some cute moments, but there's not much to add with them for this go around.
Yeah.
And then we have Commander Dad, Andre Bellatar, RIP, my dude. He takes the role of her military advisor, I believe.
Mhm.
And but then after this first meeting with Bennett, decides to take himself out of that position to better help Diem.
And they definitely had unkind words to each other. She wasn't
Yeah,
the most gracious about him stepping down.
yeah. It was kind of
Yes.
a I'll do it myself kind of thing.
Yes. Dang it.
Yeah,
I think we'll talk more about that later, but
me
dang
too.
it. All right. And then we have Alex. I really like Alex.
I love Alex. I think
I think
she's
she's
so
gonna be an
BA.
ally later. She
Yeah.
totally is. She totally is. She also helps Luther. We learn that she is one of
Yep.
the people that helps Luther with smuggling out the children.
The
And then,
halfsies, yeah.
yep, halfsies. God, I love your nicknames for things. You're just the best.
I like halfsies. That's what I'm calling
Halfsies.
them from now on.
Cool. Let's call them halfsies. Okay.
So she helps with the halfsies.
She does. And then she can apparently also manipulate light into
Yeah.
optical illusions, rendering people or items invisible.
Hmm.
Um, Super cool. And that's totally going to come in handy somewhere down the road. I just know it.
Yeah. And also, Luther did mention briefly that Diem should be able to do it as well.
Also makes me wonder if he can do it. Like, can anybody with light
Yes.
magic
Do
just
it. Yeah.
manipulate it and change things like that? Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of was wondering that too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to call him Raphael
Perfect.
because I am a Ninja Turtle fan, but
Yes.
this is King Arthur's mate. He was a talented poet. He died less than a month after Arthur's coronation, and he was poisoned by a rival house.
Mm-hmm.
Remus, he's around, definitely still taking advantage of Diem and reminds people how he has been in control for the last few months.
Mm-hmm.
Gareth, the older brother, very dangerous and is basically waiting for the challenging, in my opinion. Possibly a child beater. And
Mm-hmm.
Luther states that he is a very dangerous man. Then we have his son, Eamon, smells like cinnamon and vanilla and feels very wrong when he's touching Diem.
Very wrong when he touches DM.
Very wrong.
Just
Yep.
no, no.
However, cinnamon vanilla. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, that one too. I like it.
I do like that. That smell does seem enticing.
And I'll go ahead and say it right in here, but like I don't know that he's that bad.
I know. I think
I
we're gonna
don't
talk
think
a
he's
lot
that
more
bad.
about that later, but I'm with you. I'm
Yeah.
conflicted when it comes to Eamon.
I don't I
I'm
think he's
really
gonna be like
conflicted.
one of those like makes the good choice in the end kind of thing. You know?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think I agree with you on that. Mm-hmm. All right, then we have Eamon's little brother, Taryn. I love Taryn. His sense of humor is amazing.
Yes.
I also love that he calls Dee Queenie. which we talked about earlier, but like that is totally a Leslie level nickname right there.
I know.
That was my first thought when I saw that. When he starts calling her Queenie, I'm like, oh my gosh, he totally beat Leslie to the nickname on that one.
Yeah, and then he calls Eleanor Ellie or something, or
Yes.
Ellie Belly or something like that.
Yes,
And I was
Ellie
like, I
Belly.
love that.
Uh-huh. That was cute. That was cute.
Yeah.
Definitely gives me, I'm not gonna say what kind of, okay, he gives me vibes from a different character from a different book series. I'm not gonna say the name just
I
because I
think
don't
I'm
want to give a
picking up what you're putting
spoiler.
down. I think I'm picking
But
up what you're putting
do
down.
you agree with me? Like,
Yes,
totally the comedic
100%.
relief. I
And just like
appreciate
the
his
best
character.
guy friend kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they're totally gonna go get
Can
drunk and
flirt
hang
with
out
him,
and throw
but
paint
there's,
on something later. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Can totally flirt with him, but there's no like actual
No harm, no
romance
foul.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah. Me too.
Um, we also learned that Taryn is close with Luther,
Yep.
like brothers close. So he's
Yep.
way closer with Luther, who is his cousin, than he is with his own brother,
Own
who is
brother. Yeah.
Eamon. And we also learned that he helps to smuggle out the, what do we call them? Halvesies? The
The
halvesies
halvesies.
children,
Yeah.
which totally makes him even more better. Is that the way I would say that? No, even
Yeah.
better.
Even more
In my
better.
mind, even more better. Um, and then he gets a nickname from Diem. She calls him Tear Tear,
Uh-huh.
which again, also love that.
I'm like, can we bring up how much of a little dirty birdie this boy is? And I
Yes.
love it. Oh my goodness. I love it.
It's hilarious. He is just the comedic relief all around.
Oh yeah. All right. So that brings us into Eleanor or Ellie Belly.
Hmm.
I hate that she is constantly apologizing for things and takes the fall for
Oh,
things
me too.
that are out of her own control, like the funeral dress situation. I'm really hopeful that she'll start to see more of her own worth with Diem's help.
I agree. Although I will say that when I first read about whole DM's whole dress situation, my first thought was, where was Eleanor? Why wouldn't she have
Oh,
at
you
least
think she
warned
should
her
have?
about something? I think that someone should have at least warned her about something
See,
that was
I
so
could have
important.
swore she like hadn't been listening or something like that when they had been talking or something earlier.
Okay, you might be
And
right.
she
You
even
might be
said that
right.
she hadn't been listening or something.
So they just
But
maybe
then,
assumed that she knew. But they knew she grew up
yeah,
mortal, so
or that
mortals
she
wear
was
black to
listening, or they assumed
funerals.
she was listening, but also Saray, like we're jumping, but Saray was also
Yeah,
like, girl, wear that strappy cute red dress. Like,
absolutely.
do not wear that. I'm gonna huff at that. You're not wearing that. Wear the red dress. And she was
Yeah.
like, no, I'm gonna pick my own decisions. So
I mean, I would have a really hard time wearing red to a funeral, let's be honest.
yeah, and a
You wear black to a
sexy,
funeral.
strappy little thing.
So I
But
would
we're
have probably
mortal. We're
like,
not descended.
yeah, right.
We don't know any better.
I probably would have blown Sorey off too. I'd probably been like, oh yeah, red, that's hilarious. I'm gonna wear the black one. Someone
Right.
should have told her this is very
Somebody
important. You
should not.
must wear
Oh,
red.
well, nobody even seen her leave, remember? Because she just goes out the
Exactly.
window with
She was
Soray. Oh,
going by
yeah.
herself. Gareth thought that it was best that she go by herself on Soiree
On
instead
Soray.
of coming with the rest of the family. I can't remember why, but
Just thought, yeah, thought it would be the move, but it was
I
not.
don't know. I'm just thinking Eleanor is like by her side telling her every detail about absolutely everything. I'm not blaming her, but I was like, where was she in
She
this
should have been there.
situation?
Yeah.
Why didn't she at least leave her a sticky note or something saying wear the red dress? I
And
mean,
maybe that was like part of Gareth's manipulation. And he was just
I do
like,
wonder about that.
I'm going to keep everybody away from her so that she can just make an ass out of herself.
Yes. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do wonder about that part.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got Perth, the guard she saved from the armory fire. He is back. He was healed in Fortos with his legs that were all damaged.
Mhm.
And he is from House of Bennett or the Bennett house.
Okay.
He is her personal sentry, and I have a little bit more thoughts on theories on him later.
Okay, I honestly didn't pick up that he was from House Bennett.
I did. It said it right there. I think
Okay,
it was
I'm
Luther that said it too.
okay. Yeah, I totally missed that part.
Because she asked, like, she's like, are you a core boy or whatever? and
Corbois.
he, okay, whatever, Corbois, Corboy,
All
whatever.
these names.
I quit. It's also 10 o'clock at night.
Yes.
I'm gonna say what I want to. But yeah, so Luther's like, no, he's from House Bennett.
Okay, I
So
missed that. I missed that. Okay, I probably would have had a lot more theories if I
girl,
knew
the
that.
things you picked on up on later that I missed. So don't worry about it. You're
Okay,
good.
cool.
Who's next?
Okay, then we have Ileana. Um, gosh, dang it. She is a power-hungry, manipulative B word.
Oh yeah.
Like, she still thinks she has a chance with Luther,
Mhm.
even though he's totally made it clear that he's not interested. She's trying to pit everyone against Diem. She's just a piece of work. I'm not a fan of her at all.
No, and she's also seeming to come off as very power hungry to me. I'm
Mhm.
not sure she actually is like in love or just like loves him or wants Luther whatsoever, but more the power that and control that he has and could have as king.
Totally. She's not in love with him. She's
No.
just special.
She's
Okay.
we got two more. All right, we got two more. What are they?
All right. We have Marth, which is Ileana's grandmother.
Mhm.
Apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. She is
Nope.
also a manipulative, gossiping piece of work.
Yep.
And then we have Jean, which is Ileana's older brother. Again, manipulative, piece of work, and a bully.
Yeah. And I don't think we have this later, so I just want to mention it now while I'm thinking about it. So Diem basically gets Meredith to agree that no one from the house, her house, will challenge Diem in the challenging.
Wait, I missed that. Explain that to me.
Oh yeah, I might have to pull up my notes.
Okay,
So they're kind of having that like back and forth or whatever, and
their little verbal sparring match at the ball.
yes,
Okay,
and then basically she was saying like, are you suggesting that House Core Boy did something or whatever? And she says, no, I'm not saying
right.
that. And then she kind of beats it out of her. And then so she's saying, then she says like at the end, like, so tell me, will the house of what is it, Hanover or something like that? Will
Hanover.
House of Hanover challenge me in the challenging, or do we have a problem with them in the challenging or something like that? And they say no, House of Hanover will not challenge, or like I'll have to look it up later and like maybe I can put it in the show notes or something. But
Okay.
yeah, that's basically what it says.
Ooh, I
Which
missed that too.
yeah, and I forgot to put it in our notes, like, and I just thought of it like as
Hmm.
I was looking at that name, and I was like, oh, this needs to at least be said.
That debunks a theory that I have.
Oh, really? I'm
I
sorry.
should
I
have
always do
paid
this
more
to you.
attention.
I always do this to you. I'm so
Dude, that's okay.
sorry.
This is what I get for not paying attention. Next up, we have our world building section. What new information do we have about the setting? That's what we're going to talk about in this section.
Really, we don't have a whole lot this time, but maybe we're just missing some things as we've noticed.
Maybe. Maybe.
Um,
I've missed a lot of things so far, so.
but I did put down for chapter 16, she moves into her new like living quarters. So the
Mm-hmm.
royal chambers or whatever they call them. And Soray has a little habitat area that I guess like connects to her rooms. I want to see more of this. I want to see like what she hangs out on. Like, does she hang from tree branches or something? Like, I don't know.
I want to look up some fan art for this. I'm totally into looking up fan art for all of
I
this.
I
I
will
want
look
to look
at
some up. That'd be
I
cool.
know you want to, but I will look at fan art when we have finished because that's what I do.
I have been resisting the urge. It's been hard for me, but I have not yet.
See, I have a feeling that like I see it in my head a certain way and I'll be ticked off when it's not like that when I look at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. See, I don't see it in my head any certain way. I see somewhat of images, but it's mostly fuzzy. I just don't have a creative brain. So that's why I love fan art. Makes
Oh,
things very
I'm one
clear
of
for
those
me.
people that like as the words come in, like the whole movie's playing out in my head. It's wild.
I have that too. There's just like the edges are blurred in the
The
movie.
edges are
If that
blurred.
makes sense.
I have a hard time with people's faces, like imagining
Yeah.
people's faces. Like I think
Yes.
that's what's weird to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the only new place that we learn of is the arena. Is that right? It's like an arena, right? I was
That's
having
what
a hard time
I
imagining it.
that's what I thought. So I'm
Okay.
thinking kind of like a football stadium.
Yeah, that's kind of what I imagined too.
But then it was saying like how on the outer sides of it there's like what was it? Stone benches or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, well then they're not saying up high or anything like that. So is it just
No. At first I was imagining the people kind of on the same level as the the pyre, the area
yeah,
where
almost
the
like a
king is
stage
at.
setting?
But then I imagined the royals or the houses kind of up high like they had like their own like boxes kind
Yeah, but
of.
they made it seem like they were close because they kept going up to the stage to
Yes. I
talk
was
and
having
stuff
a
like that.
really hard time imagining that, honestly.
I was too. And I felt like there wasn't a lot of details in this part. And so maybe that
No.
was why it was so hard to kind of
And
figure
maybe
out how
we'll
this was
find
set
out
up.
some more about it. I mean, because we learned that that's where the funeral was held. So, I mean, that's where we learn about it is during the
Yeah.
funeral. But we also know, right, that this
That's
is where the challenging is going to take place, is
yeah.
in this arena. So
So
maybe,
hopefully we'll get a little bit more.
yeah, hopefully. That would be
Yeah.
nice.
Then we can kind of add to our world building. So check
Yes,
back because we'll be back with this.
we will. Yep.
Cool. Well, that kind of sums that up for that. So let's move on to history class. What new history or lore have we learned?
Okay, I think we have quite a bit here. So
Oh yeah.
let's start with chapter 16, which is the first chapter we read in this chunk. And in this chapter, we learn that the descended wear red and something representative of light, like jewels or sparkles, to funerals to honor their kindred blood and the light of Lumnos.
Hmm.
And it also is to represent a respect for the king and where his soul will go. Wearing black, on the other hand, which is what we all know that you usually wear to a funeral, that's seen as completely disrespectful and kind of shows what you may think of where the king's soul or whoever is, whoever's funeral you're attending, where the
Yep.
soul is actually going.
Yeah.
But the mortals in attendance are wearing black. They don't
Yeah.
care about that. They kind of wave it off because they're mortal. So
Well,
whatever.
also she says at some point she's getting snippy, and I want to say it's like with Taryn.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "Well, I chose black because us mortals," but then like she corrects herself or something like that. Where I
Yes.
grew up with the mortals or whatever, mortals would wear black to a funeral. And so,
Yeah. And but then we learn that like her wearing black as the queen apparent
yeah,
is seen as not only disrespectful, but also like she sides with the mortals.
yeah,
So, which also completely goes against her and Remus's plans to make her seem like this unassuming person. So,
yeah. And like I kind of mentioned this earlier, but like Soraya wanted her to wear that strappy red number that
mm-hmm.
Dee thought was just too scandalous.
And maybe
But
she'll learn to listen to Sora a little bit more. Well, she
yeah,
does later on,
yeah,
actually.
she does.
She does.
But she also is like, okay, well, I'll wear that for another occasion. So like that would technically be clues and foreshadowing because I think she will, but I don't know when
See,
or where.
I didn't think about that either. I don't know where my brain was at the beginning of all
I
of
thought there
this.
was so many little like things and cliffits and whatever that I was like, oh man, this, that, the other, like,
Yeah, I missed a lot of that. That's what you're for. That's why you're here,
Don't worry,
Leslie.
you came in with a hammer later, so don't worry about it.
Okay.
Chapter 17, we learn about the king's late husband and mate, Raphael, which is what I'm calling him. I don't care what it is, okay?
I think it's
Because
perfect. That's
Teenage
what I was
Mutant Ninja
calling him.
Turtles is life, man. Okay, he was a poet who wrote a sweet yet slightly scandalous poem for Uther's coronation. We learn what happened to him. He was essentially targeted and poisoned by one of the houses and killed quickly after Uther's coronation.
Hmm.
That house was then completely eliminated by Uther. Even innocents were taken out, and Remus and Gareth were part of it or led it of some sort.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then we have also in chapter 17, we learn about the mating bond. I ate this part up. So This is the
I
mating
barely took
bond.
notes because I
Oh,
was like,
goodness.
she's gonna go. So,
I want to get this
ladies
far.
and gentlemen,
Here we go.
Jess is gonna
So,
stand on her soapbox.
yep,
Please pay
here we
attention.
go. According to the Descended, anyone can attempt the mating bond, but only true love will seal it. So, two people can think maybe they're mated and they can attempt this bond where they basically shed a little bit of blood and it like tells them whether they actually are mated to this person or not. Am I right on that? Did I get
I
that
think
part right?
so. That's
Okay.
kind of how I took it. Yeah.
Okay. And then once mated, the two halves become a whole. And they can't even like be away from each other for very long or else their magic will start to weaken.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate. I feel like that's a chink in the armor.
Yeah.
Um and then if one dies before the other, they can never love another ever.
Mhm.
Like that's it for them. And this is a legacy of the kindred's choice to give up their immortality for their mortal lovers. And then when they're mated, they can also sense each other's emotions, which we'll talk about more later.
Mhm.
And when one dies, the other stays in limbo until the other one joins them, and then their worthiness is judged together as a single soul. And it can also be one-sided, which is also very unfortunate, where
Yeah.
one feels the mating bond, but the other never does. And this is called stranded mates.
Oh, yeah. That one sounded really sad.
Yeah, it does. It does.
So, speaking of mates,
Mhm.
but this isn't going where you think it is because in chapter 19, while she's visiting with Commander Dad, this is after the funeral, right? When he gets brought
Mhm.
back to her rooms.
Mhm.
And he mentions how he has met the Gryvern of Igneos,
Mhm.
and he is a mean, brutal male. Then Soray lets out a small whine and an emotion down the bond that Dee doesn't quite understand or catch.
Mhm.
Is this Soray's mate? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
I think so. I did pick up on that. And
Yeah.
I had that thought too. I also find it kind of funny how you're like, oh, mates between the descended, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But you're like, Soray, she has a mate. We're gonna
I
look
was
into
so
this more.
excited. I was so excited. But also, like, who knows what that could mean? And like, do we get to meet him at some
Yes.
point? But
Oh, I'm sure.
also because they're mates, could it cause either Soray to pick him and Igneos over her at some point? Could it
Mm.
um cause like what do you want to call it, like a bond or a alliance between her and the king of
Mm.
Igneos, or maybe it's the queen. I think it's the king of Igneos,
I think so.
but something like that. So that's kind of like, this is like, it's coming,
And
something's coming from this. I just don't know exactly
correct me
what.
if I'm wrong, but isn't Igneos one of the ones that one of the realms that Henry was saying were are bad to their mortals? Aren't they the ones that
Yes,
like rounded
so
them all up and
yep, when
basically made them
they
starve
rounded them
and
all up and
uh-huh.
left them out in the desert to basically burn up. But they're
Yeah.
also like, I want to say like eyes of fire and flame or something like
I
that. And
think
I thought
so.
it was really interesting with like her feelings of burning up and stuff like that. And I kind of wondered if maybe
Mm.
like she's originally from there, but I'm not so sure on that theory anymore,
Okay.
but it's still there in the back of my mind. But yes,
Okay.
that's the one Igneos is.
Okay, cool. All
Hmm.
right.
Oh yeah.
Moving on. Then we
Nope.
have in chapter 23, we learned
Nope.
that
Nope. We're not.
nope, we're not.
I have
Pause.
another note.
I scrolled too far. My bad.
Oh, you're good.
Cut.
Good. That's a wrap. We're done. No, I'm just joking.
Right.
Okay. So, chapter 21, her gray eyes get brought up again at the dinner party by
Mhm.
Tyrus. I'm going to say, we're going to pretend
That is
as
Tyrus. I did check that
Tyrus.
one.
Okay. Um, so by Tyrus and he says colorless. Okay. But apparently, Lumnos herself had gray eyes, according to Luther. Lumnos had gray eyes. She gifted her offspring with blue eyes at the forging, but hers always remained gray.
Ah, finally. Finally, we get an answer about the gray eyes. I will say this series so far has been really bad about like these open-ended comments where you're like, what are you talking
What
about?
does this mean?
Finally, the
Yes.
gray eyes have some meaning. So
And
Lumnos had
this,
gray
like,
eyes.
I feel like it's another notch for my Diem is kindred
I agree.
theory. So we'll
I
see.
agree. All right, and then in chapter 23, we learned that among the 20 houses, 5 of them hold the most power. Those houses are House Courbois, House Bennett, House Hanover, House Tenier, and Emeraude.
Mhm.
If those 5 are in agreement, then the other houses always fall in line.
Mhm.
And of those 5 houses, House Courbois has more of a history of being friendly toward mortals, and House Hanover hates the mortals the most.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, like their house crest, House Hanover's crest, is a white rose with a single drop of red blood on it
Yeah.
to show that they have the most undiluted bloodline. They are, like, or at least they believe they are, 100% kindred slash descended, except the one drop of mortal blood from Lumnos's mortal lover.
Yeah.
And then chapter 24, we learn about the forging spell. So there's the forging spell and then there's the forging magic. So the forging spell is so the quote from the book says the kindred's forging spell nullified a descendant's magic while they were outside the borders of their termere. Only the crowns and on-duty soldiers of the Amerian army were exempt from this loss of power, but an uninvited visit from either was tantamount to an act of war.
In 25, I have that we learn that each house has servants that are descended of that house. So it's like they are also basically family members.
Mm-hmm.
And they do not let mortals be servants or really even in the palace at all. But all
That
the
was
houses,
interesting.
yeah, all the houses, it's family that are the servants.
Yeah, and I didn't think about that until they talked about it. And it kind of makes sense with the secrets that they hold and the way they all function.
But it's also interesting, like it kind of makes me wonder like how many servants and stuff like that are like lesser family members or like this sucks, I hate these people too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of makes me wonder if some of those people will help her retaliate.
I agree. And it's all dependent on like their magic, right? So the ones with the
Yeah.
lesser magic who really couldn't be of like use to the house, their options are basically be houseless because there are
Hmm.
houseless descended or be a servant.
Yeah.
All right, so then also in 25, I have another history lesson about the forging magic, which is different from the forging spell, which we just talked about. So the forging magic, Luther is telling Diem this. He says, the forging magic works in a different way. King Ulthar described it to me like his bond with Soray, a connection between the crown and the soil. It listens for you and it must obey your call. So moving on now to clues and foreshadowing. Here we talk about all the big and little things that we think could lead to more in the future of our characters and the story as a whole.
Right. So first up, I have in 17, I have Gareth and Luther are kind of having a standoff and, just a spitting match. And
Mm-hmm.
he tells her that Gareth is dangerous. And she responds with, he may be dangerous, but I am God's damned fatal. And I think she will be. And I hope
Mm-hmm.
she knocks him off the freaking planet.
I agree. That dude needs to go.
Go bye-bye.
Unless he like takes a total like 180 at some
No
point.
way. No
Not a
way.
fan of Gareth. Then I have in chapter 19, Luther brings Commander Dad to the palace the next morning. So this is after the funeral and her whole
See, I thought it was
debacle,
that
whole thing.
afternoon.
Morning, afternoon, something like that. I think you're
Something
right.
like that. Yeah.
Okay. Me and the details apparently at the beginning of this book.
She's like, mates, man, mates. That's all I
That's
care
all I could
about.
focus on.
And Luther's
Okay.
lovey-dovey words later.
Right. So the next morning slash afternoon, some point in the day after the funeral,
Yep.
um, Commander Dad comes to the palace and Diem asks him if he knows who her birth father is slash was. and if he knew that she was descended. Dad tells her that he had no idea she was descended. She
Mhm.
then asks him if her mom worked with any Lumnos descended in the army, like close enough that any could potentially be her father.
Yeah.
To which Dad replies, quote, "None that I know of. She had you while she was away on her final mission. I assumed it was someone she met during that time." Dee then questions him further on this, and Dad says, "I don't know any details. It was highly confidential. She wasn't even supposed to confirm that a mission happened at all. Only the King of Fortos would have the authority to tell you. So, the
Mm-hmm.
King of Fortos may actually know who her father is."
Yeah. Other than obviously Ariel
Yes.
or
Yes. Or
Orally,
orally.
sorry.
Orally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So on that same kind of note, chapter 19, Dee asks dad what he really knows about mom's disappearance. Um, with no lies, no secrets, tell it to her straight, right? He says she was planning a trip. She wouldn't say where or why, only that she could be gone for a long time and she wouldn't be able to contact me while she was away. But she swore she would warn me before she left. When she vanished without a word, I wasn't sure whether dot dot dot.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, so just hear me out here. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe he was the one that only knew she would be gone, but doesn't know where she'd be. So now I'm wondering who the hell was the other person that knows where she is?
Yes.
And my thought was, could it be Vance? So Luther
Oh,
and Vance know where she is. And I
oh,
have some other theories that have now formed on this, but we'll get into that later.
okay. I want to hear it because I'm interested in this theory you have. Okay, so then continuing on with again in chapter 19. So Dad apparently kind of picks up on the tension between Luther and Diem, and he says, quote, "It all makes sense now. That letter, him keeping you here after the fire. Like, what makes sense, Dad? I mean, he doesn't finish that thought. What makes sense? Is it the romantic tension that they're mated, that something to do with Orally, something to do with her being queen? I don't know. Like, what makes sense? Like
Okay.
this book and the open-ended comments are just driving me crazy.
Yes, I agree. But also, okay, so I had a thought on this.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know if it was like this with your dad, but like, okay, my dad knew when I had a crush on a boy, okay?
Yeah.
Like, and maybe like, or like when a boy was crushing on me. And I think that's just like a fatherly thing, is kind of
Mm.
what I picked up on. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, yeah, there's guys are cute together, kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, my dad was the same way.
okay, so yeah,
And I'd be like, "No, you're not right." But he was
no,
usually right.
I
I
don't
mean,
think he's cute. Leave me alone.
yep.
Oh my goodness. My dad used to
Oh.
embarrass the life out of me. But all right, what's up?
Okay.
What's
So
next?
next we have chapter 22. All right, hear me out. We know
Okay.
that mates can feel each other's emotions, right?
Oh goodness gracious. Okay.
I picked up on this so much, like over and over in this chapter chunk. They say that they can feel each other's emotions. And I would argue also in the previous chapter chunks that we've read
Mhm.
that Luther and Diem, they can sense each other's emotions. I mean, I'm just saying, like
I
he's panicking, he's this, she's this, and they pick up on it. I don't
yeah,
know.
like I yeah, like when her power's swirling at the end or whatever, and she says she can feel his swirling too with anger or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally agreeing with you, but it's definitely the whole mates thing is being shoved down our throats. So like we get the point. They're
Oh, you
mates.
say it
They're
like it's
just
a negative thing. This is
I mean, it's
good.
not negative, but it's just like okay, I get the point. Can we get some more story, please?
See, these are the details I did pick up on.
Of course, mates, mates, mates,
Yes.
mates.
Buzzword. Okay, so then also in chapter 22, I couldn't decide whether to put this in clues and foreshadowing or in our honorable mentions, so I'm just putting it here. Diem says to Luther, quote, "You're all using me. This whole God's damned house is using me. Just because I'm choosing to play nice for now doesn't mean I've forgotten that I'm a mouse in a pit of hungry vipers." To which Luther replies, he says, "A mouse? We may be vipers, but you're no mouse. You're a fucking
You're a fucking
dragon."
dragon.
Oh, take the mic, Leslie. Let's get on your soapbox now.
Okay. Yes, you freak. You freaking beat me to the notes on this, and it almost made me mad. But
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, you're good. No, you're good. So with this, but yes, I want to say it was maybe episode 1, maybe 2. I can't quite
I
remember.
think it was 1.
Okay, but I
Maybe 2, yeah.
guessed that, and this was just a freaking guess. Like, I think I was just like, I'm just throwing this out there. I don't know. Maybe I sound stupid, but the kindred were possibly dragons. I think I said, or some other kind of mythical creature, right? But, and I'm saying even more now that she is part kindred, right? At least part kindred, if not fully kindred or whatever. So what if he's being legit and is not just saying something cute and like motivating, but is actually telling her what he believes her to be? And Penn Cole, I need freaking answers, and they better be at the bottom of this book or the next one, because I cannot wait on this cliffhanger, knowing that I am right. And I have been right from day 1. Okay.
When you first had that theory, and I think it was in episode 2, because we were talking about the epilogue and Orly's whole situation where she's in the Kindred Island. So it would have been episode 2.
Yes.
And when you were talking about that theory, I was like, okay, I mean, you tend to be right about a lot
I
of
don't
your
even
theories.
mean to.
Yeah. So I'm like,
I'm pretty sure that one was just like I pulled it on my butt kind of theory,
yeah.
but at the same time, it wasn't.
And I was like, okay, that might be a little out there, but I'll
There's
roll with
no
it for
way.
now. And then
There's
when I
no
saw
way.
that comment, I was like, oh my goodness. I
You're a
think Leslie might be onto
dragon.
something.
Oh. That's gonna be the headline of our next one. It'll be, "You're a fucking dragon."
Yes.
Oh, sorry, sensitive ears. I just used the F-bomb like 5 times. So I
Yeah,
apologize.
it was in the book, so.
It was in the book and I got excited, man. Okay, with all that excitement. Okay. Chapter 23, in the dungeon, waiting to train with Alex and Taryn, and Luther and Dee are playing a game of, I'm going to call it, you show me yours and I'll show you mine, but with scars. And his scar skirts around his heart where he places his hand, like when they see the vision or whatever. And they start to talk about the vision and the meaning of it, kind of, I guess, and they get interrupted.
Of course.
Why do we have to get interrupted? Just give me the freaking information. I just want the freaking information. But she gives him a touch him and die moment instead of like a touch her and die moment.
Yes.
Because she wants to know who did this to him. And he won't tell her who did it to him yet. He uses it as motivation and says he'll tell her after the challenging and her coronation. But then also, just after this, Alex is explaining godhood and that the kindred brought it from the world they came from. Quote, kindred are considered gods to us. They had their own deities back on their home world. They brought a piece of that divine power with them when they came to Amarian. The godhood lives inside blessed Lumnos just as it lives in you. She's freaking kindred, dude. Like, I don't know how much more like explanation you want, but it is written very clearly.
I mean, if we are wrong about that, I mean, you originally had that thought, and I'm on board with you now on that one for sure. And if you're wrong about that, I'm going to be super surprised.
I'm going to be mad.
There's no way that's wrong.
I'm going to delete our entire podcast and take it off. I'll be like, dang it, I was stupid.
I mean, if mates are being shoved down our throats, I also kind of feel like the whole her being kindred is also being shoved down our throats.
Yeah,
in a good way.
How can I make this any more obvious for you?
Yes.
Like, pick up the information without picking up the information, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. Chapter 24, descended from other realms are arriving at the ball, right? And Saray keeps looking beyond the gates, and she is hoping that it's Henry that's not there, or that he doesn't try to come, right? And then Eamon gives her this phoenix pendant before they go to leave. And it is the symbol or the emblem of the house for boy.
Mm-hmm. Which I think we're going to talk about a little bit more
I
later
think
in
so.
more detail, but yeah.
And then I do have another note for chapter 25. It's where they've caught Henry trying to sneak into the palace or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he says to Diem, war is coming, Diem, time to pick a side. And I think this is
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a big, what is she going to do? Which way is she going to go? And I really don't think she's going to go to either side. I think she's just going to stay in the middle.
Yeah, for now at least.
Yeah.
Or there's going to be like a third side that
There's going
she
to be a
ends up
third
creating.
side.
That's my
Yeah.
thought. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so too. So kind of continuing with that in chapter 25. Um, so we've already sent Henry to the dungeon now, and they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out what to do with all the guardians outside the gates, right? And it's just kind of a huge info dump about Umbrios here. And Luther is trying to help Diem get the guardians away unharmed. And Luther says, quote, I may have a solution. If you release the Umbrios descended from the forging spell's effects, they can use their thought magic to make the mortals go home peacefully. Also, he says Umbrios descended are fiercely loyal to their queen. What they learn, they'll tell her. It will give her immense power over the realm and over you, especially if you have plans you don't want other crowns to know. And then this forging magic, it enforces the realm borders, but each crown can like wave um each of the realms magic within their own realm.
Mm-hmm.
And Luther describes the forging magic as he heard it from Ulthur as, quote, like his bond with Soray, a connection between the crown and the soil. It listens for you. It must obey your call.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my first thought on that was like the thought magic. So that's kind of like a new kind of magic that we kind of talked about, like how we
Yeah.
learned about Alex's magic earlier. But that's interesting. Like we can alter people's thoughts, which kind of
Mm-hmm.
comes back in here in a second. And also they're very fiercely loyal to their queen. Like I think their
It
queen is very interesting to me as well.
yes, their queen is interesting because she's in previous episodes that we've done, we talked about how she's feared.
But it
She's the
sounds
one
like
who like killed off people to keep her line clean,
she
right?
killed off Descended. But
Right.
mortals are free to come there, come and go
Yes.
as they please. It sounds like it's like there's bars and pleasure houses and all sorts,
Mm-hmm.
like it's a free for all there. But does that mean it's a free for all for mortals? Like, but not descended? So is this like backwards? And this just kind of all makes me wonder, like, is she good? Is she bad? Like,
I know. I'm wondering the same thing. Because also like when Luther tells Diem, you know, you don't like whatever they learn, they'll tell her, especially like it's going to give them her immense power over the realm and over you, especially if you have plans that you don't want the other crowns to know. Immediately she goes, well, you have secrets, Luther,
yeah.
that no one should know. Like you've been helping smuggle out these half descended kids all these years, and so they're going to know your secrets. And immediately he goes, oh, don't worry about it, she already knows about that. Like the
Oh,
Queen of Umbros knows that he's been helping smuggle, and she hasn't
these
said a
halvesies.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
he's like, she's had years to do something about it, and she's never done anything about it. But she knows.
I must have totally missed that part and just
Mm-hmm.
glassed right over that part.
Yeah, she knows about the smuggled children and has done
Yeah.
nothing about it. Which, again, like you said, makes me wonder, is she as bad as
It
they make her
comes
seem?
off.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I have some thoughts about that later in thoughts and theories, but
Oh, I cannot wait.
yeah. Okay, so we ready to move on to chapter 26 now?
I think we are. This is a
Because
big
this
one.
is another info dump, huge info
Yeah.
dump. So this is the chapter where Luther takes, so she releases the Umbros Descended from their magical bonds from the forging magic.
Yeah.
And Luther takes one of them, because there's two descended from every realm that came to the ball.
Yeah.
And they came with gifts for the new queen, for the crown queen, for her. And so Luther takes one of them. We don't learn this one's name, but Luther
Yep.
takes one of them to go help with the guardians to get rid of them peacefully. So then there's another one that's left, which we're going to get to him in a minute. First, I want to hit on the gifts that are given. So she's back at the ball,
Mm-hmm.
and she is basically, there's like a receiving line, and
Yep.
each of the two descended from each realm are coming up to her with their gifts. So I have a feeling that these gifts are going to mean something later. So we're going to go through each one of them real quick.
Yep.
Hopefully, it's fairly quick. So, starting off, we have Fortos. The gift from Fortos was a fine blade, which she notes it looks like Breck's work. They've
Yep.
mentioned Breck a couple times in these ones, so I have some thoughts on
Yeah.
that too later.
And he's from Fortos too.
Uh-huh. Yep. But he's mortal from Fortos, and he's part of the Guardians.
Yep.
Then we have Montios. They gift her a fur-lined cloak spelled to always keep the wearer warm. And then she wants to question how the magic works outside their borders, but she doesn't ask. But she's wondering, like, how can the magic work on the
How does
cloak?
this work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we have Arboros. They gift her an emerald-hued potion said to cure any ill, save for the curses sent directly from the gods. And again, she wonders, why was this not offered to Ulthar when he was ill for months and months and months? But
Mm-hmm.
again, she doesn't ask about that
Mm-hmm.
either. But that also makes me wonder about that one.
Yeah. No kidding. I'm with you.
Yeah. And then we have Faunos. Their gifts are two furry creatures said to be a delicacy for the Gryverns, which she immediately gives to Eleanor and tells her to keep them far away from Soray.
Far away from Saray.
Then we have Igneos. They gift her a white spider silk scarf so strong it could not be penetrated by any metal weapon, no matter how sharp. Which makes me think of another series we read that
Yes, that's
had a lot of spider
exactly.
silk stuff
And it
in
was
it.
kind of the same thing, like that very strong,
Uh-huh.
penetrable material.
Yep.
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 So why does she need this? And is this going to also get sewn into a bodysuit of some
Right?
sort?
Or maybe put on Soray, like
Right?
happened in another book. Okay, no more
Mm-hmm.
spoilers. All
Yeah,
right.
no more spoilers.
And then we have Meros. They gift her a compass they claimed would point to the user to whatever their heart desires most. And interestingly enough, when she glances at it real quick, it's pointing towards the back of the palace. She wonders, like,
Oh,
is it pointing towards home? Is it pointing towards my family or Henry? My theory is it's pointing towards Luther. I think he's back and he's at the back of the palace.
I must have missed that part because, yeah, that would make so much
Yes.
sense.
Yes. And then we have Sophos. They gift her a blush satin pillow bearing a golden orb, polished smooth except for a maze of etchings. The orb of answering is what they called it. They say it will respond with yes or no to three questions of one's choice, so long as the answer is known to any living being within the kindred's blood. So she picks it up and she feels the magic in it immediately. Like she's like, okay, whatever, you know. And then she picks it up and she feels this, again, the humming feeling. We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
get into the humming again of the
Humming. Don't
magic.
let's not get started with
No,
humming
we're gonna
again
get that again.
because humming is
Um,
not a feeling, it is a sound. But
right.
anyway,
It's stronger.
intense vibrations.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, there it is. And then she does actually ask this time how the magic is possible um, outside of the realm.
Yeah. So-
To
And this
which, go ahead.
this is like a magic 8 ball, right? Like that's what you're
That's how I
thinking.
imagined it.
Okay. Because
Uh-huh.
that's totally what I was thinking this was like a magic 8 ball.
And so she asks, like, how is this magic possible outside of your realm? And they reply, only the kindred can provide that answer. So that's helpful.
Like, damn
Um,
it. Like, just tell us
Come
answers. I'm
on.
over this.
I know. And then they actually had a second gift for her, and their second gift was inviting Teller to study in Sophos,
Yeah.
which, remember from our last episode, Henry tells us that in Sophos, that's where, you know, the people, the mortals that go to the descended school, those that are deemed worthy enough or smart enough are invited to go to Sophos, which is supposedly filled with all these universities and places to study and further themselves, which is all that Teller wants. And up until
Right.
now, that's what DM wanted for him also. But Henry tells us that they actually take the mortals that come and they use them to experiment on, basically,
Yeah.
and learn from. And so immediately she declines the offer very coldly. No, he's not going. And it kind of creates a bit of an uproar.
Yeah.
But they say the offer is still on the table if anyone changes their mind. So,
Yep.
all right. And then lastly, which technically Sophos was the last gifts to be given, but I put this one last because there's a lot of information here. We have Umbros. Okay.
Yeah.
Umbros. There's a little bit to unpack. So, first of all, we meet Simon, because we remember that the other descendant is with Luther, helping
Right.
with the conflict. So, Simon is the other descended from Umbros that comes.
That
Okay.
approaches by himself. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
Oh,
this guy's a creep, man.
this guy's a creep. Because like first of all, he digs into her mind
Hmm.
and she immediately can feel him digging into her mind.
Yeah.
And then also mentions how, because I think it's either Gareth or Remus is like, well, where's your companion? How come there's not two of you here? And that's when Simon goes, oh, I don't remember if it's a he or a she, but the companion is helping Dee's special friend, in quotes, with his, in quotes, little problem.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah. So
nobody else
saying it
knows
without
of
saying it.
this.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But also
Which,
nobody else knows that they have their magic right now.
exactly, except for Luther and Diem.
Yeah.
And then that kind of gets Remus and Eamon going. They're like, what the heck is going on here?
Hmm.
They're suspicious for sure. And then Simon mentions that his queen is very eager to meet Diem. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on between Simon and Diem before he actually gives her the gift.
Yeah. Yeah. So he keeps sending her some like very,
Oof.
very dirty images. And we're just going to kind of leave it at that because if you read the book, you kind of know what's going on. And it kind of
Mm-hmm.
was a shocker when I was just sitting there reading it. And there's also the point where she sees him like touching himself, like
Yes.
from like, I don't know, maybe like his shoulders down to like his hip bones or something of that nature. And without meaning to, like her body is doing the same. And so she's like touching herself like the way that he's
Yes.
touching him. And it's just interesting.
It's creepy. And then she calls on she's panicking internally,
Yeah,
probably externally too.
probably.
I think she was trying to hold it together, but she's panicking. And she finally, she talks about how she couldn't feel that fight voice inside of her. She couldn't really feel her magic up until this point, and she's like, where is it? And then through her panic, she starts to feel that voice coming up, that fight, fight, fight
Yeah.
voice. And so she literally begs, I guess we could call it the godhood within her, to help her. Like,
Yeah.
help me with this. And then all of a sudden, he's blocked out.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know how, but there's a wall up in her mind now, and he can't get to
And he
her any
can't get to
longer.
her. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Um,
And
so
like this
then, go
kind of,
ahead.
hold on real quick though. This kind of
Yeah,
brings me back to something when Taryn and Alex and Luther are like training her for the first time. I want to say it was that morning or something like that.
it was.
And Taryn says something about da 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 da. She can't even shield. Why would I be worried about her
Oh,
magic? She
yeah.
can't even shield. And that kind of makes me like, is he talking mind shield? Can he read minds? Like
Mm. Mm.
just something. And I've always kind of wondered, like, what if Taryn is not the favorite kid and maybe like the less favorite brother because maybe he's not really actually
Oh,
Gareth's son or something like that.
oh.
And so this kind of like made me wonder more, like, can he read minds or whatever, you know what I mean? And that's how he knew that. But this could totally be just so off the wall, who knows? But that's just
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
immediately what I thought about.
I remember that, but I totally blew over it and didn't give it any second thought. But you're
Oh.
right. I think I remember thinking like shield, like actually putting up like a physical shield, and I didn't think about mental shields
Oh, yeah, I
because,
guess that would make sense too.
well, I mean, I thought about it because the Lumnos don't have like the mind speaking abilities and whatnot, the thought reading
Yeah, that's
abilities
true that we know of. I
that we know
mean,
of. True, we're still
yeah.
very early on in learning about these magics. So,
Yeah.
but then also, so like after this shield goes up in her mind, and Simon kind of realizes I don't have access to her mind anymore.
Mhm.
It kind of fizzles out the interaction between the two of them, and she kind of like dismisses him. And right before he goes, he's like, "Well, don't you want your gift?"
Mhm.
And she's like, "What gift?" And he says, "Okay, so here's your gift." He says, "The gift has already been delivered." And his queen says, "You're welcome for the advice."
Mhm.
Then Simon repeats the poem from the old lady in the alley from book 1, chapter 1. When DM gets held mentally captive by the old lady, I knew it was going to come back.
Uh-huh.
This
Uh-huh.
old lady with these black eyes, she puts her claws in DM's mind, and the lady says to her, quote, "When forgotten blood on Heartstone falls, then shall the chains be broke. Life for life old debt requires, or eternal be his yoke." And that's what Simon says to her is her gift, the advice. And
Mhm.
then DM recalls the other things that the lady said. So it brings her back all of a sudden, her memory's rolling.
And
And
we're in
she,
chapter 1 of book 1.
yes, I
Yes.
kind of really loved, I love when that happens, when it's like all the way at the
All
beginning
the
and
way
it's
it comes
coming back
back.
around.
Yes.
And so then she starts recalling the other things that the lady said during that interaction. And one of them was, she says to her, "Listen close, daughter of the forgotten. Stop running from who you are. Stop hiding and stop taking that cursed flame root powder." The
Mhm.
old lady is the Queen of Umbros. You called
Uh-huh.
it. You
No,
called it.
you called it.
Did I call it? One of us
You're
called
the
it.
one that called it. I could swear that like episode 1, you called it that like
I'll take
she's
credit
from
for it. I don't call
Umbrios.
things, so I will
I see.
take
Yeah, see,
credit
I
for
don't know that
that.
I thought she was the queen, but like you were the one that was like, this lady's from Umbros, and I was like, I think I just like skimmed over that.
Okay, so then here's
I'm
this
letting
too.
you call it, but I think it was you.
I'll take it. But that makes me think too. So we learned just now that only the royals and the members of the army can pass the borders without losing their magic.
Hmm.
Only if they're invited. So if
Hmm.
she had that magic that day when she
Hmm.
had her hands in DM's mind and she's the queen, so she's royal so she can keep her magic, but only if she's invited. So she had to have been invited, right?
Hmm.
She
So
had to have
like,
been invited.
let me segue
Hmm.
really quick. Let me
Okay.
segue
Okay,
really
go for it.
quick. Okay. So, what is it right after this interaction where is it when she's going to go find her mom that she finds the guy in the alleyway that's trying to kill the mom and the half descended son? Is this the same time?
It was not in that chapter. That's
It
later.
is
That's after
later.
she stops taking the flamer after she gets back from Fortos.
Oh, so
Because
this
she's
might have
able
been
to
some
use her
time
powers.
later.
It is.
Okay. Because
But I
I
will
was kind
go
of
ahead.
wondering, like, what if the queen was there to meet Luther to get some of these halvesy kids and take them across the border
Oh.
and kind of like maybe, I don't know, maybe use her mind magic that if they came across anybody, she could be like, yeah, you didn't see nothing, goodbye, kind of thing. And like, what
Okay.
if, and this is kind of going into my thoughts and theories that maybe mom is not that good, but like that was
Mm.
kind of what their fit was about. Maybe it was that there was supposed to be a meeting that day for some of these kids, but they're like it didn't happen. And maybe like that's why this descended guy found um obviously his ex-lover and child in the alleyway. Like I said, I like it's a weird thought that I'm not sure I have all of my points put together, but like I wonder how closely he's working with the Queen of Umbrios. Does that make sense?
Yep, it totally makes sense. And then I
So,
just had a thought too while you were talking because they have to be invited. The only thing they said about them not being invited was not that they would lose their power, but that it would be seen as an act of war. So the royals
mm,
and the members of the army can keep their powers regardless, right? Am I getting this right?
I think so. Yeah.
They keep them regardless. It's just like if anyone knows that they passed over without being invited, it's seen as an act of war. So she would have been able to pass over without being invited. Because I'm thinking like Ulthar would have been sick and maybe unable to, maybe not invite her at that time.
Yeah.
Oh man, so much here in this little
But it's
chunk.
like Luther's the keeper of the laws or whatever. So
Yeah.
he's the one that's responsible for the executions.
Oh
So it's just
goodness.
so much to unpack. We're only given these little tidbits of information and then things
Yeah.
just drop off and I'm about to lose my mind.
Well,
I
and then
need to
there's
start having
another
some
like
answers.
one little tidbit from the queen, now that we know this is the Queen of Umbros,
Yeah.
um, that we know that she knows about the smuggled children. I mean, I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later in my thoughts and theories, because I also have a small theory that she might be one of the ones that knows about Orally and her whereabouts. Why would else would she be right there in the
Oh,
alley, right next to what was
yeah.
like she was overseeing what was going on there? Or maybe she
Right.
was coming to meet with Luther and Orally came instead and she was waiting her turn. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh man. We are
But
just we need to
one more.
start getting out like our red line, like
Oh
red
my gosh.
strings and
We need a diagram.
oh man. We might have to deep dive just on this part right here.
But then the last thing that DM remembers that she recalls that the Queen of Umbros says to her that day in chapter 1 of book 1, she says, quote, "He knows about your father. He's waiting for you." So,
Oh yeah.
so the Queen of Umbros knows who her father
Knows
is
who her father is.
and knows that he's waiting for her wherever. And also, she says,
Mhm.
he knows about you, your father. He's waiting for you. Like, he knows about Diem. Oh, I don't know. There's so much here. Like, we almost need a whole new episode just to talk about this one
Oh yeah.
chunk.
And then also, I think we already talked about this tonight, but like dad says that she'd have to ask the king of Fortos or whatever
Mm-hmm.
about her father because he
Mm-hmm.
might know.
Mm-hmm. So a couple people know who her father is. And then I have one more little note here saying that the Queen of Umbros is never invited to any other realm. No one invites her to their realms because everyone's terrified of her. So she
Mm,
could not have been invited that night. She snuck over the border.
interesting.
And they talk about how she's like absolutely gorgeous and all this stuff, but she presents as a craggy old lady. So can she
Right.
also change her appearance?
She shift or
Uh-huh.
something. Oh, wait a minute.
So much.
Oh, we could talk about this all night long,
We
but yeah,
could.
what if the Queen of Umbrios is also kindred and they can
Oh.
shift because they're like dragons or whatever, but they can shift
She knows her
and
father.
she knows who her father is. And because it
Mm.
sounds like the Queen of Umbrios or whatever to me, it sounds like who Diem is going to end up being. And they're all
Mm.
kindred. And that's why they know who is what is damn it. But whatever. And we really need to move on, or we are going to be
We
here for
do. We could sit
hours.
here for all night. We have more to dive into. So we're going to
So
leave it
yeah,
at that
maybe
for
we'll leave
now.
it at that, and
We
then
still have
we'll.
15 more chapters in this book, and then we
Oh
have a
yeah, that's
whole
right.
nother book that is 1,000+ pages. So
So
we're going to
let's
get some
we'll
answers.
circle back when we have
We
answers.
will. We will.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Oh man.
So,
Okay. So now let's get into the lovey
okay.
gushy gubby stuff, and that
Moving
is for you.
on. My turn. Again, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Chapter 28. So, Diem accidentally slips up while she's dancing with Luther. After the whole gifts thing and all that stuff, then there's the dancing. So she dances with everyone, and then her final dance of the night is Luther. While she's dancing with him, they're having some conversations, and she accidentally mentions her plans of taking down the Descended. And
Mhm.
then Luther finally makes it known why he serves her. She's been asking him this whole book so far, what is your truest answer? Why are you so loyal to me? And so, okay, quote Luther says, "You've asked me why I serve you. This, my queen, this is why. Diem says, I shook my head, too scared to even breathe. She says, I don't understand. Luther says, more than any of the other kindred, blessed Mother Lumnos loved the mortals. She never wanted them to be forced into submission. She commanded her descendant to guard them from harm, not be the cause of it. Diem, he took my face in his hands, cradling it in his palms. Luther, even before you had the crown, I felt her urging me toward you. The more I see of you, the more I understand why. She wants change, and she believes you can achieve it. And then a little bit later on, Luther says, you are my queen, and I am your sword. Point me at your enemies and watch them fall. Lead this world, Diem, and I will follow you. Into war, into death, into the tundra of hell itself. Diem, he took my palm and set it against his chest, just above the patch of unscarred skin that lay beneath his jacket. Luther, you are the fate of my heart. You are the fate my heart was spared for. As long as it beats, you will never fight alone. Damn. Finally, he confesses his feelings for her. He tells her why he's fighting for her. Oh, I'm swooning over here.
Girl, I highlighted all of this, but all I put in my notes was, damn, Luther knows how to say I love you, I guess. I might be Team Luther. I still think he's golden retriever energy, but
No.
but he sure knows how to say I love you.
He is her sword. Point me where you want me to go, and I will fight. That is
Moving on.
Okay, your turn for the spotlight.
Chapter 29. Evan Bennett is the first, he's the first house meeting, right, that she has. And he is saying that he wants retaliation for the armory fire. And Gareth asks him straight out, what do we have to do to prevent a challenge, essentially? And then Evan Bennett says that he wants all of the guardians and their families to be publicly executed and all other mortals to be basically drafted into the army in Fortos, which is to more or less kick them out of this realm. And this stirs her powers, and she explains it as icy and hot again. And again, with the both of them, like I'm telling, like, yeah, there's something with the icy
There's
part of it
something
too. Yeah. And she can also feel Luther's stirring as well. But Luther kind of gives her the head nod, like, no, now's not the time, kind of thing. And she kind of decides to chill it out. And I feel like this is why Evram is responsible for Andre's death, since he was so upset by his presence in the meeting, and that's what sparked this proclamation of let's get the mortals out of here, basically, and let's kill all these people.
Okay, so that was actually going to be one of my questions for you later, and I've got lots of other ones. So that was going to be one of my questions for you was, who do you think is responsible for
I think
Andre's
it's
death?
Evram.
You think it's Evram?
Or his men, basically.
Yeah,
I doubt he did
the
it
House of
himself, but
Bennett in
yeah.
some way.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Well, jumping off of that, I think we just said it.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Chapter 30.
Chapter 30. Dad is murdered. Like, damn it.
I feel so bad because I said I think that Commander Dad was gonna die.
I was thinking about it though. It just made me think because of other books that we've read where someone that you really like dies, and then the reasoning behind it. And you think about, okay, if Dad was to continue living, what kind of issues would it honestly have caused
Right.
for her
Or
down the
how would it
road?
add to the story either?
Yeah, because he was supposed to be going to the army to kill guardians. Like that was going to be his job. He got re-enlisted by force,
help
basically.
with that rebellion. Yeah.
Yep, to help with the rebellion. And she's against the rebellion, so would they have ended up going up against each other? I don't know. I think it would have caused a lot more conflict than was necessary. It would have pulled our story away from the actual conflict I think we're going to see.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I hate it, but unfortunately I think it was somewhat of a necessary situation.
Yeah.
But damn it.
Yeah, basically.
During like this whole situation though, I mean, Luther comes in, says there's a situation, you need to come now. Takes her to the cabin. There's
No,
all this. Is
Luther
it Luther?
doesn't come in. It's
Oh,
Alex comes
it's
to get,
Alex. You
yeah,
are right.
Alex comes
Luther's
to
already
get her,
there, right?
and it's just Teller and Lily or whatever. And then so they hide Teller and they go put Lily and Teller in her rooms.
In the palace.
Yeah. And then yeah, and then she goes with her and they ride on Saray. And then that's where they find
Mm-hmm.
Luther outside with a couple bodies of guards.
Yep.
And then he keeps telling her not to go in there.
Like, don't go inside. Don't go inside.
Yeah.
And then she goes inside and she sees her dad, not just murdered, but obviously like he's got multiple stab wounds. There was
Yeah. And
a
there's
huge fight
writing,
beforehand.
there's writing on the wall.
Do we know what it
Um,
says, what the writing was? Do you remember that?
yes. It said, and then I saw the writing, large angry letters smeared in dark crimson on every wall. Mortal lover, half breed, rebel, scum.
Mm.
But I don't know. I did.
Mm.
Who knows what it all means? But
Mm. Okay, that just
that's
made
what
me
it
want to
says.
add to
Yeah,
my theories a little bit, so I'll come back
kind
to
of
that.
did too. But because I was kind of wondering, I'm like, do they mean him or do they mean her?
Yeah, I
I
think they
think they
probably
meant
mean
her.
her. I think they
Yeah.
mean her. Mm. Okay.
And then I also have, so she says, Andre Bellatar, war hero, legendary Amarian army commander, advisor to the crown of Luminos, beloved husband of Arali, devoted father of Diem and Teller, was dead.
Mm. Ugh.
And then kind of later, she says, this is not just a murder, it's a punishment, a message for me.
Yes.
So
And then she
I
like, oh, go ahead.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying is I think it had something to do with it's a message for her and
Yeah.
that those words were about her.
Yeah.
Um, and then it also has in there like of this steel knife or whatever it is. I have it right here. It says, if the dark smoky gray of Fortesian steel hadn't marked it as a descended weapon, the jewel encrusted handle would
Mm.
have.
Mhm.
The blackwood hilt was inlaid with copper scrollwork and pale pink gemstones that twinkled as the dagger quivered in my palms. And like this kind of made me mad that she destroyed it because I'm
I
like,
know.
okay, this would be telling us whose weapon it is unless she knows. But
True.
also who's our weapons dealer,
I
right?
know.
It's Evram.
I know.
So that's why I think it's him. And then before we kind of get into anything else though, I also wanted to mention about how like before where she's getting ready to basically burn the house down, there's also another mention of the hot and icy feelings in her magic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, do
There's
you
got
have
to be something there with the both feelings.
yeah. I mean,
And
did you have anything else in this?
yeah, a couple
I
more
mean, this was kind of a
things.
big one too, but
It was, yeah. Yeah, so a couple more things on this. So like she knows she's gonna explode. At this point, she's
Mhm.
out of control and she tells Luther and everyone like get out, get away from me. I'm gonna explode basically. So she's sitting in the middle of the cabin next to her father's body and literally explodes and incinerates everything around her. Like you said, the knife, the cabin, the place where she grew up, every memory, every photo, everything gone. Then she finally kind of cools down. Luther comes back for her and she kind of comes back to and she says, quote, "This night, this was the fire that had forged me, and some day soon, when the burning glow of my grief cooled away, I would show my father's killer and all of Amarian just how deeply my blade would cut." Talk about a thesis statement. That right there is the ultimate moving us forward here.
Oh yeah, that's 100%.
And then we also like we know from Alex, back when they're doing their training in the dungeon, Alex mentions to her that oftentimes their magic will manifest itself through a moment of trauma or great need. I think that this right here is going to be her jumping off point for the remainder of the story. This is where we meet the new DM that's going to step into her role and go above and beyond to save the weak, avenge those who couldn't save themselves, and just be the queen that the world needs to see at this point.
So, our honorable mentions category are quotes or events from this chapter chunk that stood out to us, but we weren't exactly sure where to categorize them.
So, starting in chapter 16 again, all the way back at the beginning of our chapter chunk here. Um, I can just quick note, I appreciate that DM is not described as a small, weak little thing like a lot of the FMCs are in these books, like
Me too.
malnourished, tiny little weak thing, no
Weekly.
muscle.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're like this badass, strong queen or whatever. It's like, okay, that's not believable. So I guess in comparison to like the other descendants, she is on the smaller side. But
Yeah.
as a human, she's actually like has height and muscle and curves. Quote, she says, I'd never been called small in my life. In the mortal world, I was always too tall, too covered in muscle and curves. As a personal trainer, I can appreciate that. Like, think about how much
Yes.
force and strength it comes, like, that is needed to wield a sword and fight people and physically take down full-grown human men. I mean, you'd have to be strong. I don't care
Yeah.
how
No
strong you
kidding.
think you are as a girl. It's easy to get overpowered by a guy. So I was like, I was appreciative of that.
I was too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then chapter 18. Um, Saray. I mean, like, she's just
Uh
the
huh.
best. The way she talks to Diem about her outfits, and then she comes to her rescue at the funeral, lights the pyre, and then whisks her away, and then all the other ways that she communicates with her. I just absolutely love her. And there's a
Me
small part
too.
of me that thinks that Saray is maybe relieved to have someone like Diem as her new ruler.
I
Also.
think so too.
Hmm.
I think so too.
Then chapter 19, Dad is talking to Diem when he comes to the palace,
Mhm.
and he says, quote, a battle is a battle. He tapped a finger on my temple. The weapon in your head is more important than the weapon in your hands. You've always been my bravest soldier. As long as you keep fighting, I know you can win.
That was so cute.
I know, that was a cool one.
And then I have also chapter 19, same thing with dad. But Alex has just made him invisible or whatever, so he can
Mhm.
walk out of the castle, right? And DM says, "Holy shit." And dad immediately says, "Language, DM." Who else is a Marvel fan? Because I laughed so hard about this because there's a line where Captain America says language, and then the rest of the gang all make fun of him. And so now in my head, Commander Dad now equals Captain America.
I didn't think of this till I saw your note about it, but it made me laugh because we just watched that Avengers movie with my boys like a couple weeks ago.
I wanna say it's Winter Soldier, but I'm not
No, it's in
positive
one
on
of
that.
the Avengers. I think it's in the second Avengers movie because we just watched it.
Oh my goodness. But yes, so that was hilarious to
Yep.
me.
Yep.
And then I have chapter 21. DM is thinking about going. Oh, buddy. DM is thinking about going to the dinner party and talking to Saray and says, even if I did go, what would I wear? And once again, I cracked up because all I could think about was the scene from The Grinch with like Jim Carrey, and he's deciding if he's going to the Christmas celebration or whatever in Whoville. And he goes, but what would I wear? And he's the thing is he's talking to Max the dog, just like she's talking to Saray, the Gryvern. And it's just freaking hilarious. And I'm pretty sure the author was just sitting here like watching Christmas movies and just like typing this out. And she was like, oh, I didn't mean to type that out. You know what? It works.
It
And
works.
then kept going.
I just appreciate that you always have some sort of reference Disney, Marvel, The
I
Grinch.
mean,
Keeping it light
I
over
don't
here.
think Disney is the Grinch, but
No,
Disney
it's
owns
not.
Marvel now, so
Oh gosh.
it counts. All right, so then in chapter 22, Perth, the guard, is talking to Diem outside of her rooms, and she is saying that he doesn't owe her his life, basically, and he realizes, um, or, and he says, it would be my greatest honor to repay that debt. This is, I guess, some foreshadowing, or
Mhm.
maybe just my personal thoughts and theories, but I'm scared that now he's going to die. And I didn't want to say that because the last time I said I thought somebody was going to die, they did. So, but he's also the only guard we really know by name. And so that kind of makes him slightly more personal. And I think that just kind of added to his tally of reasons why he might die.
Yeah, personal enough. but easy to kill,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, so then back to chapter 21, we've got the dinner party. And Ileana is talking about how she always told Luther that he needed to get his scar removed once he became king because they all thought he was going to be the king, and
Yep.
she thought she was going to be his queen consort. Um, Apparently, it's customary for the descended to get any scars that they may have acquired as kids removed once they have their healing abilities. Which DM replies to her and she says, "A scar is a sign of survival, of endurance. It's a sign that its bearer triumphed over what might have killed a lesser person. To show off your scars is to tell the world you're not ashamed of what you've overcome." And then again on the scars thing in chapter 23, Luther asks her, like, they're having their I'll show you mine, you show me yours thing
Yep.
with their scars. And he asks her, he's like, "Why wouldn't you have your scars removed? Don't they make you sad?" And she says, "My scars make me happy. They're all memories." And he says, "Aren't they unhappy memories?" She says, "Not anymore. Time has a way of erasing the pain and leaving behind the laughter," which I think is true of physical scars and also mental scars.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And then we go into chapter 26. Okay, we've talked about the like necklace, the pendant, the
Yep.
crest that Eamon gave her quite a few times, but now we're gonna actually like go into it a little
Talk
bit.
about it. Yeah.
I don't know about this necklace. I'm leery of it. Um, I mean, at first, okay, so when he very first gave it to her, I was leery of it. Then after he explained it to her and it kind of explained himself, I was like, okay, maybe it's not that big a deal.
Hmm.
But then the way that Gareth acted when he saw it makes me leery again.
Yes.
I mean,
I was thinking the same thing.
yeah, because as soon as Gareth sees it when she walks into the ball, it says, quote, "His focus dropped to the golden medallion that hung between my breast, then shifted to his son with a subtle nod." Like, there's something
Hmm.
there.
Like, is there like some curse or spell or something in this pendant? Like, yes, it
Yes,
made me
yes.
nervous.
I don't know. Maybe nothing will come of it, but I don't know.
I hope nothing comes of it at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, then chapter 29. Eleanor taps the phoenix medallion around Diem's neck and says, quote, "Everyone says this phoenix represents dying and coming back as something new, but I disagree. I think it's a symbol of surviving when the world burns down around us. It's a reminder that no challenge can destroy the parts of us that truly matter. We're not reborn in the flames, we're revealed."
Yeah. And that like thinking back on it, this quote was what I was thinking of when she was like burning down the whole house. I think
Mm-hmm.
this is her transition point that we kind of
Yes.
already talked about. So,
Yes. Agreed.
all right. We finally made it to questions for each other. I only have just the one, and it was like kind of like I was saying. So if dad was the one that knows just that she would be gone, we're talking about orally, the mom.
Mhm.
If dad just only knew that she would be gone, then who would be the two people that know where she is? What do you think?
Oh, okay, so I actually had this question for you too, so I'll answer first.
Right.
Um, I definitely, obviously, Luther is still on the list. He
Hmm.
knows, I think he knows, well, he knows where she is because he said he could go get her, and he knows obviously that she's alive. So he's a for sure. I did think it was dad. I'll be honest, I don't even think dad should be on the list anymore, though. He says he knew that she had a final mission to go on, but that she was supposed to warn him before she left. So I think part of him maybe thinks that she could be on that final mission, but she
Hmm.
never warned him. So does he know anything? I don't
Right. Does
know.
he know anything at all? Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly don't know if he's on the list anymore.
But
And
also, like Luther was saying that like they had to leave then, right? Like that was that first conversation in that first chapter of the book.
yes.
Yeah, that it was very
Yeah.
immediate. Whatever
Yeah. So
needed to
there's a
happen needed to happen
reason,
then.
right. So there's a reason that she left immediately. So dad could still be on the list. I'm iffy on that one. So I guess for now, I'm going to say dad, Luther. And I now think that the Queen of Umbros also is one
Oh,
of the
knows
people.
knows where she is.
Knows where she is, knows she's alive because she was there for some reason. She was right around them when they were having this situation right before she left. She knows
Mhm.
about her dad. She knows about the smuggled children. Orally, there's no way Orally is a stranger to her or Luther or their plans. So I think that I think she is, I think Luther and the Queen of Umbros know where she is and know she's alive. I think Dad was maybe the third person that knew she's alive but doesn't know where she is.
That's good. I might like yours more than I like mine now.
Okay, what's yours?
Okay. So mine is like, obviously we've decided that Dad just knows she's alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's Luther still, but I also think it's Vance, the leader of the Guardians.
Okay.
Because I was thinking about it when Luther was, I can't remember if it's in this chapter chunk or that one before, but um they're questioning each other and she's trying to get answers out of him about her mother, and he's also giving her questions to try and figure out what she knows about that situation.
Mm,
And he's saying something like, what were you two planning, like thinking she was in on this plan with her mother, right? But what
right.
if her, because there's also like talk about the Guardians right in that too.
Right.
So I'm wondering if he thought at that point that she was the leader of the Guardians, and
Hmm.
that mom is, okay, what if mom is playing both sides of this, and and she's also, DM is now also going to be playing both sides of this, but she's going to be doing this the right way, as her mother was maybe not doing this the right way. Maybe she's going more towards the Guardian side and she's going to go more towards everybody's side.
Mm.
So that's my thought of who, and because like you kind of talked about, I don't know, first or second episode, but like how um the Vance, she knew him from talking with her mother outside of the healers thing or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
just stuff like that. And then also like she had been in Fortos or whatever. If you want to know about your real father, talk to the Fortos king or whatever. But like Fortos is where what's his name, Breck is from, and then
Mm-hmm.
Breck talks about how he knows her, and that, or
Mm-hmm.
well, he knows of her, or knows of the female leader of the Guardians. I'm so sorry, I'm kind of like tripping over myself here, but so that's kind of where I think it is. And it's like she's in the middle of the Y, but she's gonna actually go up the middle, and her mom kind of went towards the Guardian
Okay.
side.
Maybe it's Luther, the Queen of Umbros, and Vance. Maybe Dad's not in the loop.
Maybe Dad didn't really know anything. That's true.
Maybe we're both right.
Oh yeah,
That'd be
that could
cool.
make sense. Yeah. What other questions you got?
Okay. Since we were just talking about Breck, do you think that Breck is still going to call in his favor? And do you think she will still repay him?
Oh, 100%. And it's going to be at the most inconvenient
You
time.
think so?
Uh-huh. It's going to be like getting them into the castle or something like that, since they've been shut down again.
Do you think she'll agree? Do you think she'll actually do it?
I don't. mm, I think she's going to be like forced into it, like with a hand pushed
Okay.
against her back kind of
Okay.
thing.
Yep. Yep. I could see that. I could see that. I think that if she doesn't have a choice, she's gonna say she's not, or if she does have a choice, she won't repay him. But I
Yeah.
could see that. I think you might be right. Like if she does not have a choice, she will, because she's
Yeah.
shown over and over that if it's gonna save the mortals or her friends at this point that are descended, she's gonna do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Who do you think now? Who do you think that Orly killed on the island? Who or what? Because before our thought was, could it be her father, who was some like kindred dragon shifter? But now we know her father's alive and waiting for her. So do you have any new thoughts on that?
Not really.
I don't either. I was wondering if you did.
Yeah, no, I still think it could be like a kindred of some sort. Like what if
Mm-hmm.
we're taking these people out? I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but I still think it's a kindred of some sort.
Yeah. That's about as far as my thoughts go on that one too.
Okay, good. I wasn't
Okay.
expecting that one. I wasn't ready
Sorry.
for it. No, you're good.
Do you have any other thoughts now on who DM's real father might be?
I don't know. The Igneos thing is still in my mind. And weren't they ones that gave her the magic 8 ball?
No, that was Sophos.
Oh man. Okay. Okay. Then I guess I don't know yet. Sorry, I
No, Igneos
apologize.
was the
My
spider silk
animals are trying to go to
scarf.
bed.
No, you're
Oh, the
fine.
spider silk scarf.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I still don't know.
Okay, same. Um, okay, this shouldn't be too hard of a question. What do you think of Eamon? Can we trust him or not?
Not right now. I think he's under the guise of like he's trying to impress his father. He's
Mm-hmm.
trying to do whatever his father says, that sort of thing. I think that maybe he actually is Gareth's son, and then maybe Taryn isn't. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of part of it. But I do think in the end he's gonna do the right thing, kind of guy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Or he could be a Henry. We don't know.
He could be a Henry.
Could be a total douche.
Don't be a Henry.
Right. Don't be a Henry.
Okay, last question. We know she's going to get challenged, right? I mean, like,
Yeah.
this story's not going to go anywhere without her being challenged. Who do you think's going to challenge her?
I'm gonna say majority of the houses.
Okay.
I think it's for sure gonna be Ileana.
Yeah.
It's gonna be somebody from the House of Bennett. Um, and I had at least another thought, but now I can't think of it. Um, but I think there's going to be multiple. I don't think it's just going to be one or two.
My biggest thought on who's going to challenge her is going to be Ileana or somebody from House Hennevier.
Yeah,
I don't
that
know
makes sense.
about House Bennett, but possibly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, that's the end of my questions.
that's the end of your questions. Cool.
Drilled you a little there, sorry.
No, you're good. Okay, so how would you give me your thoughts and theories?
Okay. So, a little all over the place. I'm going to try and pull them all together. But so we kind of talked about it a little bit, but we thought that maybe dad knew or knows about Orly's plans, which I assume meant that Orly also knew Diem was going to become queen. I don't know about that though. I actually don't know about that. I don't know if Orly knew she was going to become queen, but I think she did. Um, However, his reaction at the funeral leaves me wondering if he was left in the dark, and it seems like he was left in the dark the whole time. Um, but yeah, I don't think that dad knew about Orly's plans. I think that okay, I think that Eamon and Henry might actually know each other.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Just because like when Henry came to the palace uninvited and Diem doesn't know who's behind her. She mentions she knows somebody's joined the party. Henry looks up and kind of seems to recognize the person behind her. And the way that Eamon acts towards Henry is just not, I don't know, aggressive enough. It seems like he knows him. It just seems to me like he knows him. I could be wrong on that, but that's my little mini theory that they know each other and are possibly working together at this point. Then
Okay.
the argument between Luther and Eamon on the whole Henry and Diem thing. Um, like Eamon claiming that he won't tell anyone about Henry, like the argument that they had back in the first part of the book when Henry, like they're
Oh,
passing by. So like supposedly they're having an argument over Henry. Eamon saying he's not going to tell anyone about Henry as long as DM takes him to the ball. Um, but then we find out that that wasn't the case. So if Luther didn't blackmail Eamon into not saying anything about Henry, why wouldn't he? I don't know. It's an out there, maybe a little out there theory, but I kind of think that they know each other. But then I also, like you said, think that Eamon might be, he might end up being helpful down the road. I think he's going to have some growing pains, but I kind of think he might end up being on her side in the end. But right now he's not. So that was a
okay.
little all over the place, but those are my thoughts on Eamon.
Okay.
Okay. So the Umbros Queen, we kind of talked about it quite a bit already, but she is in
Yeah.
on this somehow.
Yeah.
Like she truly does help Diem in the beginning of book one, telling her not to take the flame root powder anymore. She is helping her in that. She doesn't see it at the
Yeah.
time, but she is helping her.
That is definitely helping. Yeah.
She knows about the smuggled kids. I think she knows orally. She obviously knows who Diem's father is. I don't think she's as evil as we think she is. No one knows a lot about her because she's never invited to the other realms and she's supposedly this terrible person, but how do we know any of that's true?
Yeah.
Like
That's
maybe she's got
true.
her own thing going on over there. I think we're going to see a lot more of her, and I do believe she's going to be an ally.
I agree.
I mean, she's got the perfect situation for someone who keeps secrets. No one looks into her, no one invites her anywhere, no one talks to her. So, yeah. Okay, so then back to my theory in the last episode about Diem and her being able to cross into Fortos without suffering a loss of power. Only the royals can pass over without suffering a loss of power, but she was not crowned yet. So again, this just, I think, reinforces our theory that she's more than just descended because she was able to pass over into Fortos without losing any power.
Yeah.
And she was not crowned yet. Okay, so then at first I thought that releasing the Umbros descended. I'm jumping around here a little bit.
No, you're good.
I just threw stuff into my thoughts and theories as it came up, so it's a little unorganized. But at first I thought that releasing the Umbros descended from the forging magic was a bad idea. And Simon is creepy and slimy, and I didn't like him. But I'm also wondering if, like I said, if Umbros is actually going to be an ally, so maybe it was good for them to be able to maybe read some minds and see what Diem's true intentions were
Oh,
and kind
yeah.
of solidify that she could be an ally to the Queen of Umbros. I think they're going to work together. It was not Diem's father that Orly killed on the island because he's still waiting for her somewhere.
Okay.
So we talked about that, like, because we thought maybe, oh, it's her father, it's some kindred dragon shifter that she killed, that she got pregnant while she was at the island on her final mission, and then she killed her father. But he's still out there somewhere, and we know that because the queen says that he's not dead. So who is he? We don't know yet. But and then, like we talked about, my last final thought is that her father's murder is definitely a jumping off point. Her, like, or not Orly, Andre, Commander Dad's murder is a jumping off point for her. Her magic is fully going to show its face now. I think she's going to learn how to summon it and control it, and this is the turning point where she truly steps into her role as the queen and then some. And obviously, her and Luther are fated mates, and Henry's going to be a major thorn in the side
No
through this
kidding.
whole situation.
No kidding.
So that is the end of my incredibly jumbled together thoughts and theories.
No,
What
you're
are
good.
yours?
Jumbled together is good. Well, I'm going to cut you off at the knees because the Queen of Umbrios said all those things about her father is alive at the beginning of the first book before Orly went back to the island. We don't
Okay,
know when she killed the man on the island, right?
that's true. That
So
is
maybe
true.
Orly's the only one that knows that he's dead.
And she's been there
And
for a
she keeps
while.
checking to see that he's dead. He's been
Didn't think about
she's been
that.
gone for like 6 months, 6 months, 2 weeks, 7 days, or something like that at the end of the last book. I can't remember exactly, but
the better part of a year is what they said. So yeah.
So I'm not discounting that one yet. Um my other theory is that obviously Ever Bennett or basically the House Bennett, whatever, was the ones that killed the dad.
Yeah.
I still think that Vance could be the other one that knows, and that Mom Orly was trying to push off more of that side, and DM's going to go more Luther's side of it, or kind of straight up and down the middle. I still think she's kindred. I think there was so many other things along this that kind of solidified that thought. And damn it, she's a fucking dragon, as Luther said. And I believe it. And I'm still now going off with that, which was funny because it was just such an off the wall comment. But
It
now
was.
I'm banking on it, man. I think we're going to see more of that like invisible magic, more of that thought magic. And the creepy other descended, what did we say his name was? Sidmond or something like
Simon.
that. Simon. He's definitely coming back, and he's a
Yeah.
freaking weirdo. Um, and I'm still waiting to kind of see when this bargain bond or whatever with Remus is going to come back, because it's obviously going to. Somebody's going to break their rule at some point. I'm really hoping that she knocks Gareth's lights out at some point. She's going to be challenged by at least one person, if not two, three, four. I don't know, but I think it's going to be a lot. Or or she's gonna basically explode and then nobody else is gonna challenge her.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think just that ending where her dad dies is gonna be the big starting point of this revelation.
I agree.
I think that's just kind of my main
I
things going. Oh, and like I think also that Teller's gonna live at the castle now, and they have to
Oh,
figure that
yeah.
part out. I
Yeah.
mean,
I hope
she's not gonna
so.
leave him alone.
No.
So
No. I actually, when you were talking, I didn't write it down, but I thought about two other things I actually thought about potentially. Um, and now I lost one of them.
yeah, I hate when that happens.
Uh, oh, with dad dying, so you think that it was Evram and or House Bennett in some way that killed him, which
Yeah,
I'm more inclined to agree with you on that. I did have a little thought though that could it have been could it have been Henry? Because they said that they let him go earlier in the night. Like she
yeah.
was supposed to go back and get him after the ball was over, but
They'd
Luther
already
ended
let
up
him
letting him
go,
go.
trying to
Yeah.
diminish his pissed offness. Yeah,
And but I mean the writing on the wall with like the saying half mortal or like the mortal lover and all that kind of stuff. I don't think Henry would degrade himself by putting that there.
I don't know that Henry would do it, but I had thought about maybe the
The
guardians.
Guardians, so
Yeah,
yeah, that was a little thought. But I think maybe House Bennett is a little more solid theory on that one, but I'm not fully convinced.
yeah. And so the only thought like I kind of had with that, it was like, well, it couldn't be because of the knife that was left in him or whatever, but it's made to look like it was the Bennett's, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the armory fire, they stole all those weapons, right?
And they have
What
Breck.
if, well, yeah, what if they didn't know obviously what happened inside and the
Mm-hmm.
Guardians were trying to get back at her, and this
Mm-hmm.
isn't connected to Everett Bennett, but they're trying to make it seem like it's connected to him. So that
Yeah.
was my only other thought.
And they have Breck, who obviously like he makes the Fortosian steel blades, and she
Yeah.
says they're gorgeous and they're well made and all that. So could he have
Yeah.
made the blade that and gave it to one of the Guardians that killed Dad? I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
little mini thought. I don't know. I guess hopefully we'll find out
Yeah.
who
I
actually
don't
was
know
the
if
murderer.
necessarily Henry did it, but
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
could be responsible for that.
And then my other thought, and I'll be honest, I was telling my mom this the other night. I don't know exactly how to put all these pieces together, and maybe you can piece them together for me because you're good at that. The series is called The Kindred's Curse.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Is there a reason behind that? So if the Kindred truly, like they said in the books that the Descended were meant to be like guardians over the humans, and they weren't there to stomp on them. They were supposed to be there to help them and guard
Mm-hmm.
over them.
Mm-hmm.
So is this is where I'm saying like I don't know how my thoughts are coming together,
I
but there's something there. Like I think she's gonna uncover
I
some
think I have to
curse.
do something with somehow because they I, because they weren't descendant and mortals weren't living together and protecting each other like they were supposed to be, and somehow the kindred
Yes,
cursed them, and I still think that the kindred are around like I've obviously talked about, and now we're going to be changing those tides.
is Diem the curse
Mm-hmm.
from the
No,
kindred
I don't think she's
on the
the curse.
Descended, or she's the savior?
I think she's
She's
the
definitely the
savior.
savior.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that thought
That's
maybe it'll
yeah,
come
because I
together later,
started
but
thinking about that today too. I was like,
mm-hmm.
huh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. But we'll have to bring that back up later too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, done with thoughts and theories.
We are done.
All right, Jota count 14 in the previous chunk plus 12
Oh my.
in this one, making a total of 26 in the first 2/3 of this book.
Wow.
Yeah, I told you this thing drives me nuts when this happens.
And then we have the growling count. Five previously plus 12 in this section makes a total of 17.
Well, it's coming up too.
Yep, it is.
And the cry
The
counter,
cry
Jess, you want to
counter.
start us off since I was a
Grr.
0?
Okay, I'm gonna call myself a half.
Okay.
A half on this one. Not a full cry. The tears never spilled over, but they were there.
Okay.
And it was when she was finally, like, after the funeral, she's distraught. She messed up the dress situation. Dad comes to the palace the next day. And her final words to her dad before she left for the palace and all that, was whisked away to the palace, was they were angry words. They were arguing. And then she sees him during the funeral and he's crying and is distraught. And she didn't get a chance to talk to him. So she finally gets a chance to talk to him. And their little interaction at the palace was just, it wasn't
Super
dad
cute.
dying that made me cry. I
I
didn't
know. I
cry
was
over
just about to
that.
ask this. That's what I totally thought this was going to be.
No, it wasn't. It was okay. Having an amazing father myself and a really good relationship with my own dad, I can just feel just all the emotions that she was having at that moment. That, like,
Yeah.
dad forgave her, dad didn't hold her responsible for any of it. He was in her corner, he supported her. Like, that brought some tears to my eyes. That little interaction was just, it got me in the feelers.
I feel
So,
you. I feel
half
you.
a cry, half a cry.
I could feel the love in the room. I could feel the
Yes.
love in the room.
Yes.
I totally thought it was going to be when dad died at the
Nope.
end.
Nope. That part didn't get me. That part
That
didn't
one
get me.
might have got me close if my kid wasn't
Yeah.
bouncing off the walls while I was trying to read it. I'm like, dude, things are going down. Can we sit for a second, sir? I will get you a snack in just a moment. I need two more paragraphs. Hold on.
Isn't it funny how, like, we were able to, because, like, as you guys know, we're not reading ahead. We're
Yeah.
reading this right there with you guys. And we just happened to end on chapter 30, which was, I think, a really
A
good
really
ending
good,
spot.
yeah, no kidding. And we're literally just like picking these out of the blue. Like, literally, like, we decided it was 45 chapters in this
Yeah.
book. And I'm like, let's chunk this one into 15 instead of have it because it's a little bit bigger.
Yeah. And it worked out perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So, next week, we will be finishing out Glow of the Everflame by Penn Cole. We'll be reading the final chapters, which are 30 through 45, which is the end of the book.
Yep. So make sure you finish the whole book before coming back for the next episode in this series.
Until then,
Fill your drinks with ice.
and your books with spice.
Bye.
Bye.